Hey everyone, I'm the Koopa Man, and joining me today is my good friend Tracer.
Guten Tag, mein Freund. I'm Tracer Krieg.
And today we're going to talk about an issue that's been affecting our communities very much as of late. Tracer, if you'd please.
2 words. Critic culture. If you're sick of cancel culture deriding every little thing, a person, action, and piece of media, hold on to your butts. This is much worse. And I mean that.
And not just being critical is the problem. Criticism is a good thing. It helps creatives grow. The problem is when people start letting perfection be the enemy of the good, or worse, they start nitpicking shows and movies because of reasons unrelated to the show or the movie, like how current Marvel movies are being picked apart because of the political leanings of its creators.
A recent example of this is with the latest Doctor Strange movie. Now, to put my cards on the table, I liked it. It's not the best piece of media, but I expected it to be worse, and I had a decent time. However, there are legitimate issues that would prevent folks from being able to enjoy them, especially if you are a comic fan.
Such as myself.
What is not an issue, though, is the usage of witchcraft, namely by the villain of the movie who you can guess just by the name, and reluctantly later by the hero, Doctor Strange, which does come at a serious cost to him. You see, the old Baptist evangelicals crowd from the early 2000s who derided everything as being satanic, please think of the children, and ban Mortal Kombat, are back. They say the movie is Satanist propaganda because of the presence of witchcraft, and this is the reason for it being a bad movie. I'm sorry, but this is no different than when the Twitter mob called Kingdom Come Deliverance, a medieval simulator set in 15th century Bohemia, racist because it didn't have black people in it.
It goes beyond that. Surely there's no reasoning with the Southern Baptists. But then we go into the ones who pick it apart just for being quote-unquote woke. As foreshadowed, I did not like Doctor Strange 2 as much. I did not find the characters appealing, least of all America Chavez. The humor came off as overly snarky and sarcastic, and I did not agree with the MCU version of Wanda Maximoff taking such a dramatic sharp turn to the dark side. Even more evil than she's been portrayed in the comics outside of the Ultimates, which is a bit of an exception because everyone's evil in the Ultimates.
Especially if you're a giant man who fed his wife to ants, or the Blob, who's a cannibal for some reason and finished the job. Why do these exist? Oh, that's right. It was because it was from the early 2000s when edgy meant good and realistic. I simultaneously love and hate that decade with a burning passion.
And then we turn to the recently announced show She-Hulk, which, fortunately, we can agree on was cringe. I'll give it this though. She-Hulk in the comics was a humorous and lighthearted series with camp, jokes, and a lot of fan service. And that seems to be the direction that Marvel's headed in. It just seems that, well, they landed flat on their face on all fronts. Even the CGI made what would have been an attractive actress portraying She-Hulk look like a Simpsons version of someone irradiated by nuclear power.
I'm still upset we didn't get the sultry 90s She-Hulk. Now that's something I'd love to see.
But is it enough to call it for its faults and call it bad? Nope. Because of the issues unrelated to the show itself, there's a number online who've been labeling it as woke. And to be honest, normally there would be nothing wrong with that, but if they were making She-Hulk woke, why would they use this design and not, well...
Excuse me, it's ma'am!
Yeah, that's some nightmare fuel. Really, the heart of what made the She-Hulk comics enjoyable is there. It's just very poorly executed, not a political agenda.
I can explain why people think it's woke. For the last decade or so, we've been progressively getting more and more female-centered shows and movies that made it their business to be misandrist, or the opposite of misogynist. They hate men. They want to create a demographic out of men hating women that don't even exist. And recently, they've only toned it down so far as to now have men be the stars of the show, but have a strong woman be their second. Recent examples of this has been the Book of Boba Fett and Moon Knight. Please note, I actually like both of these shows, but even I have to admit it's there. It's a lot more subtle and subdued, but it's still there. However, when compared to the schlocky crap we've been getting just a year ago, it's massive progress, and is something I can actually tolerate. Sometimes, they even have moments of being likable. Unfortunately, like a battered housewife, literally everybody jumps and panics the moment they see signs of a strong female character. She-Hulk is one example where they cited being bad because it's woke. and not because its trailer sucked, or Obi-Wan, where everyone thinks it'll be about the Black Inquisitor lady and not the actual hero of the show, despite the fact that Chick is going to likely die halfway through so they can hype Annie v Obi 2.0.
I'm glad you mentioned Obi-Wan, because the Black Inquisitor is not the most absurd thing I heard those on our supposed side say why it's woke. There are some who are digging through interviews to make it seem like they're gonna make Obi-Wan some sort of gay love story between him and Anakin. I'll let you absorb that for a sec. The same Obi-Wan who in the canon timeline wanted to bang the Duchess of Mandalore and then went on a personal crusade against Maul when he killed her. You can tell these culture critics don't know what they're talking about half the time. Even that aside, from the trailers and reveals we have seen so far, there's nothing to indicate the series will be anything but a tale of Obi-Wan in the early days of the Empire, trying to protect Luke and stay hidden from those who hunt him. It's a lot like a story from Legends, where pretty much the same thing happens. Luke is found by the Inquisition, Obi-Wan needs to hunt down the Inquisitor who found him, goes to Nar Shaddaa to do it. Same plot beats, really.
If you'd like more information on it and an actual legitimate problem that isn't how animated characters look in live action, go check out my video on the subject. So, why are we making this video? Well, aside from it being us able to vent a little, it's also a warning.
He who fights monsters must take good care not to become one, for when you stare longingly into the abyss stares back. It has been 8 years since this culture war truly started to take up in full swing, and in that time I've seen those who would call out the left for taking stances like everything is racist and sexist, turn around and claim that everything is woke and communist without a hint of irony, becoming the very thing they set out to destroy. Either that or they just end up sniffing kids.
To be blunt, these people are just one and the same but with different ideologies.
Not all that different in just some guy's case, but go on.
Well, I once had a conversation with my dad about people like Voxes, the old British snarky puppet man, or robot head, Mr. I'm Aussie and that makes me funny. Both of them derided Mandalorian the moment it came out, paying special attention to attacking Baby Yoda. They cited him as taking away from the show by being too cute, too tonally stark from the grimdark underworld story they wanted to see, and that he needs to be rid of at the earliest possibility. These people do not have children, nor do they work with them, nor do they honestly have an inner child in them. These factors, we believe, prevent them from being able to see plainly what that story was about. A gunfighter forced to become a father and raise an orphan boy, rediscovering his humanity in the process. Additionally, because they were likely raised in the 90s, which was its own kind of insufferability, let's be honest, they likely don't understand the point of these kinds of stories. They are meant to be fun adventures that connect us back to our childhoods. Even the more adult stories that Mandalorian was based on, namely Lone Wolf and Cub, spaghetti westerns, and old black and white serials, still had that adventure streak to them. They had heroes. Heroes with flaws to be sure, but heroes with honor, who looked out for the downtrodden all while trying to preserve some of their humanity. Even the overtop action scenes are often high-spirited affairs, despite all the blood, and honestly are what superheroes movies got their foundations from. Again, it harkens back to our inner child, which much of our fiction we draw from was designed to do. Entertain children, teach them lessons, and remind adults of what they have. Unfortunately, the generation that rebelled against those who rebelled against the original everything must be grim, edgy, and realistic have now grown up, and are wreaking the same nonsense as their hippie forefathers did with cinema in the 70s. Sometimes I hate history like that. Nothing is ever new under the sun.
Well said, Tracer. Geez, if I had a coin for every time I heard the Book of Boba Fett be called Beta Fett, or Sand People Bad, or Gun Train, or my favorite, why didn't he just ask for his ship back? I'd have enough money to buy my kingdom and kick Bowser's scaly ass off the throne. Really, is it so wrong to enjoy entertainment unironically? To find a little joy and meaning from such a hard and grueling life? Look, I get that Disney made the sequel trilogy, but that doesn't mean that everything they do from now on is gonna be bad. Nobody involved in those trilogy movies worked on these shows. We are turning into zealots, or worse, neoconservatives who actually think corporations are people. To wrap this up in a nice neat bow,
allow me. Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly, they are a ferocious wolf. By their fruit, you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from the thorn bushes, or figs from the thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears only bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear the bad fruit, and a good tree cannot bear the good fruit. Every tree that does not bear a good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, by their fruit, you will recognize them.
What's good for Disney is good for the critics. Judge things as they're presented, and don't let any online figure in a nice suit tell you what to think. Not even us. This has been the Koopa Man. Game on.
And this has been Tracer Krieg. Auf Wiedersehen, Bruder.
Not a bad channel intro video. I wonder what's next. Oh, that looks nice. Let me see what the internet thinks. Oh boy. It's gonna be one of those channels, isn't it?
Pretty much.